Halloween is the day of scares, the one time of year you can be someone else. The time of year where true horror can take place and give yourself a truly horrifying experience. And as we know, in the month of October, the NFL is present and is very popular. But what if these two correlated, combining into an NFL horror experience? Well, that's what we're looking at today. Let's look at the scariest, wacky, and some of the most disturbing stories to come out of the NFL. Before I want to start, I want to say that some of these are going to be goofy and fun, but other stories will be pretty disturbing, so just a heads up, because I'm going to mention some pretty heavy stuff here. So, just giving you a warning. The Detroit Lions Thanksgiving Curse. The Detroit Lions are known for heartbreaking losing in their team's history, but times have certainly changed for the Motor City as they supported multiple winning seasons back to back to back. But one thing that stays the same is a curse that occurs on Thanksgiving. That curse would be the curse of the waxing gibbous. Now, what is a waxing gibbous? It's a phase of the moon where more than half of the moon is visible from the human eye. And when this phase happens on Thanksgiving, which Detroit plays every single year, they have lost every single game. The last time the waxing gibbous has occurred was in 2023, when the hot 8-2 Detroit Lions would fall to the struggling 4-6 Green Bay Packers, losing 29-14. Through the years, no matter how good, bad, or mid the Lions are, the curse of the waxing gibbous moon continues to haunt them on one of America's greatest holidays. Jerry Jones at Little Rock. Back in 1957, in Little Rock, Arkansas, a conflict was arising, which was allowing black people into schools. It was allowed in 1954, but it was still an issue for a lot of racists back in the 1950s. In one famous photo, we see a young Jerry Jones at Little Rock with the white students blocking the black students from entering the school. The students were hostile and harassing the black students, and eventually President Eisenhower had to call the federal troops to escort the students. Now, could have Jerry Jones been a curious student who just happened to be in the crossfire of a historical event and didn't agree with his fellow white students? Yes, but also knowing Jerry Jones' reputation in today's world, it's probably more than likely he took place in blocking the students from going to school. I could be wrong, but Jerry Jones is an asshole in today's standards, so imagine what he was like when he was a teenager. Jerry Jones in a rough part of history that he'll forever be remembered in this photo. Bountygate. During the late 2000s and early 2010s, the New Orleans Saints were one of the best teams in the league, supporting 4 playoff appearances, a Super Bowl win, and one of the best quarterback and coach duos in the league, with Drew Brees and Sean Payton. But a key factor of this team was their defense. It was always solid and helped them with many great seasons. Their DC at the time was Greg Williams, a good and respected defensive mind. But then that would all change in the 2011 season when it was broken news that Greg and Sean Payton were doing with their players. During the 2010 season, an anonymous player tipped off the NFL about the New Orleans Saints for paying players to knock out other star players on other teams. The New Orleans Saints would then get investigated, and after an investigation, the NFL concluded that defensive coordinator was the mastermind behind Bountygate. Some notable players that were targeted during Bountygate were Kurt Warner, Aaron Rodgers, and Cam Newton. Not only was Williams punished, but it was also found out that head coach Sean Payton was also involved and was proven to try and cover this whole scandal up. Payton was suspended for the entire 2012 season. But even with this football scandal, he still continues to coach in the NFL today. Football is a physical sport where injuries occur, but there's something truly evil about trying to end someone's career and possibly their life over a football game. The 2021 Rock Hill shooting. In 2021, tragedy struck when 6 innocent people were killed in a shooting in South Carolina. The man was later identified as former NFL cornerback Phillip Adams, who played 5 seasons in the NFL. In the NFL, he played for a variety of teams, but in 2021, he went over to his neighbor's house and forced his way into the home of Dr. Robert Leslie. Dr. Leslie also had his wife Barbara there and his 2 grandchildren in the home. And after forcing his way into the home, Adams shot and killed Robert, Barbara, and their 2 grandchildren. They were only 9 and 5 years old. He then also shot the 2 HVAC technicians working in the house, James Lewis and Robert. After taking 6 lives for no reason, Phillip Adams took his own life. Later autopsies on Adams showed that he had stage 2 CTE. Though not the worst stage of CTE, it's still a very serious and severe case of it. And I hear a common thing some NFL fans say about CTE is, yes, it's bad, But if you're getting paid millions of dollars, then that's the risk you got to take if you're going to play in the NFL. However, that argument gets thrown out the window when someone has a case of CTE that likely influenced him to kill 6 random innocent people, 2 of them being children. They were not involved in Adam's life whatsoever, and they paid the price. CTE is still very much an issue in today's NFL, and the NFL has tried to counter this with the Guardian helmets. They do make you look like a dork, but if it helps you be more healthy in the brain, then I can't blame any player for wearing them. Steve McNair's murder. Steve McNair was one of the top quarterbacks of the late 90s and the early 2000s, playing 12 seasons, racking up 3 Pro Bowls, a second team All-Pro, and winning the NFL MVP in 2003, and making an appearance at the Super Bowl in 2001. McNair didn't have a Hall of Fame career, but he had a very successful and good career, and he's known as a Houston Oilers / Tennessee Titans legend and is put in the Ring of Honor. But 2 years after McNair retired, he started to focus on a new chapter in his life, working in the line of business and philanthropic work. But a thing Steve McNair did that unfortunately was his downfall was his infidelity. You see, Steve McNair was married to his wife, Michelle McNair, but Steve was also seeing another woman on the side, the woman being Sahel Kazemi. However, on top of Steve seeing Sahel, he was also likely seeing other women on top of her. So he wasn't only cheating on his wife, he was also cheating on the cheater. And Sahel didn't take this too kindly. She was very paranoid that Steve was constantly cheating on her, so she bought a gun, went over to Steve's apartment he was renting, shot him 4 times in the chest before turning the gun on herself and taking her own life. Steve was discovered at a rented apartment alongside his deceased mistress. And I want to say this, you should never cheat on your spouse, let alone cheat on the one you're cheating with, but no one deserves to die like that. It's a tragic story, still talking about today, and will be talked about for a very long time. Chuck Hughes dies on the field. We all know the scary accident that happened on January 2nd, 2023, where Damar Hamlin suffered a cardiac arrest mid-game. And this was a scary time in the NFL. There was 100,000 people watching in patience and worry that they may have seen someone just die before their eyes, and millions of people at their homes worrying that they also just witnessed the death, a tragedy of a young man. But fortunately, Damar Hamlin pulled through and survived, and managed to keep playing football till this day. But what if I told you someone has tragically died in the field? In fact, it was years ago, probably before you were even born. Back in October of 1971, there was a game between the Detroit Lions and they faced off against the Chicago Bears. During the game, wide receiver Chuck Hughes collapsed on the ground and started convulsing. Bears linebacker and Hall of Famer Dick Butkus was the first one to notice and frantically got the medical staff's attention to help him. Unfortunately, they couldn't save him, and his death was ruled a cardiac arrest. Unfortunately, everyone in attendance of this game watched a man lose his life. Tragedy fell in Detroit that day, and Hughes is still the only player in NFL history to die on the field. Javon Belcher. Javon Belcher was an NFL linebacker for the Kansas City Chiefs. His playing career lasted from 2009 to 2012, but his life would forever change on December 1st, 2012. Javon was home in Kansas City with his wife, but Javon Belcher had become increasingly paranoid that he'd be losing his 3-month-old daughter, and he's also worried his girlfriend was going to take all of his money. Javon was increasingly getting more paranoid as a person, and he would constantly get in arguments and verbal fights with his girlfriend. Until one day it all boiled over, and Javon Belcher would shoot and kill his girlfriend, shooting her 9 times. Javon was terrified and scared of what he did, so he didn't know where to go. So in a desperation attempt, he went to the Kansas City Chiefs facility, where he asked Kansas City Chiefs general manager Scott Pololi and team's head coach Romeo Crennel, where he asked his coach and GM to please take care of his daughter. Crennel and Pololi pleaded for Javon Belcher to not take his own life, even Crennel saying, "You're taking the easy way out." But it was no use, and Belcher shot himself. And his tragic story ended with even more tragedy. Belcher's blood alcohol levels were very high, and he was clearly intoxicated. However, later autopsies showed that Belcher did in fact have CTE. Now, this is a common occurrence in NFL players, I mentioned it before, but again, it comes to a conclusion again where it's a player ending someone else's life that is out of their control when the CTE happened to them. So it's again another horror of the NFL world. It is still present in the NFL today and likely will never stop being an issue for the NFL as long as it exists. Matt Stafford clone theory. a bit of a more fun one than the last depressing ones. So let's take a look at the clone theory of Matt Stafford. Now, this is very recent, as in I'm talking about now, but technically in August. So back in August, Matt Stafford was dealing with an injury, that being his back. But the Rams were giving very vague reports on his injuries, almost like they were hiding something. And there was reports of Stafford returning to practice, but then he never did. Then eventually Matt Stafford did return to practice, but shortly after the practice started, Stafford left and entered an immortal chamber, with helps with restoration on the body. So this begs the question, what the hell is happening with Matt Stafford? Well, the theory goes is that Matt Stafford actually died weeks ago, and the person we see right now playing for the Rams is a clone. Think about it. Sean McVay is a genius, young-minded coach who finds ways to keep winning. What better way to keep those winning seasons coming than cloning your quarterback? Why would you get another quarterback and give him a new contract when you can keep the same one, keep the same contract, but you just clone him? But in reality, the real Matt Stafford is dead. And is it a coincidence that Matt Stafford is having the statistical best start of a season in years, and he's leading the league in touchdown passes with 17? And technically, this is his best start since 2021, after he was steadily declining back in 23 and 24. Is it a coincidence? I think not. The spooky time of year is here, but that doesn't always mean you gotta be scared. You can also scare other people, and it can be really fun. Alright everybody, that's it for me. Stay safe out there everyone, and happy Halloween. And I'm gonna end this video with just a quick montage of Myles Garrett's Halloween costumes through the years. See y'all.
They're creepy and they're kooky, mysterious and spooky. They're all together ooky, the Addams Family. Their house is a museum, when people come to see 'em, they really are a scream, the Addams Family.